What up, familia? It's your favorite Puerto Rican, Brooklyn, Philly, and I'm jumping right into a message of asking Spirit, what is it that this collective, under the sound of my voice, needs to hear, right, during this time, right? I'm currently recording on the 24th, what would be considered in the United States Christmas Eve. And I'm specifically asking Spirit, what is it that this collective needs to hear at this time, right? Specifically, what is it that this collective, my collective, those who are under the sound of my voice, need to hear specifically for them at this time? I want to thank divinity, my ancestors, and my guides, right, for their protection, their love, their wisdom, and their guidance. And without further ado, let's jump right in. What is it, Spirit? That was quick. Bees. Bees. And that says community, right? Yeah, that makes sense, right? The bees, they have a hive, and the hive has a queen, and that community works together collectively, right? For the betterment of the wholeness and of the community. And they're also very overprotective, I'm hearing, right? They guard the queen bee with their life because their very lives do depend on it, right? Isn't it the queen bee that I wanted to say procreates, but then I heard pollinates, right? And then there's something so significant, so important in general about bees, right? There's that story, that kid's story, The Life of Bees, that tells you that if bees were to disappear from our planet in general, right? Right? That I don't know why I just heard the end of the world, the destruction of that would cause, right, to our ecosystem. And then sense of community, right? The importance about the sense of community. Now I'm hearing common unity. Now, literally for some, literally for some, you may be called to such matters, humanitarian matters that would entail traffic cone, that would entail the upkeep or the of animals of specific species, endangered species, the planet as a whole, Mother Earth. And then for most of the collective that is talking about confirmation, what communities are you forming? What communities are you a part of? Are you a part of any communities? Right? And then again, they're bringing me back to common unity, right? What are you unified with others about? I'm hearing, what are you unified within yourself about, right? What common goals or interests are you aspiring to? So now they're shifting it to say, right, so in the U.S. again, they're making a distinction. They keep saying the U.S. Now they're saying the U.S. and Canada. I don't know if that's what I'm hearing. But, you know, what is celebrated is the new year in January. Although spring isn't till March. But that's another conversation. But the common culture, the common practice is that a lot of people come into common ground regarding certain goals, usually around physical fitness, weight loss, self-care, finances, the betterment of themselves, their families. But then we got traffic cone. which is telling us caution. So there's a cautionary message about what are you unified to? What are you unifying yourself to? What common causes, goals are you aligning with? What people, places, and spaces are you aligning? Because it's interesting, right? We get this one card about community that seems to be very collective, very open, very receptive, very inviting, very unifying, and almost like to all, right? I'm hearing all for one and one for all. The three musketeers. Interesting. But then I'm hearing a cautionary tale, right? Maybe there was an alignment, a group that you were unified with, that you did in times past agree with their goals, their ethics, their morals, their values, their standards, and you aligned yourself to it. So there's something about maybe moving forward, being cautionary about, again, now I feel like I'm repeating myself, about the common unified goals. Look at this. I can't make this up. Now medical staff, healing, right? Now I heard very clearly, this thing called YouTube, any platform, whether it's a podcast, YouTube, myself, I'm being checked literally on camera, live, right? I just heard the television, the revolution will be televised, right? That if you're this queen bee, or you consider yourself a queen bee, male or female, queen bee in the sense that, right? Yeah, now I'm hearing, who's that? The queen bee, the rapper. But they're saying, with great power comes great responsibility. A lot of people want to turn on the camera. A lot of people want to be on YouTube or TikTok or any other social platform, want to, orchestrate retreats and pilgrimages, or, be entrepreneurs and leaders of different organizations and companies and confirmation communities, right? Where they pull together and gather different individuals from different walks of life necessarily, and to gather them under a common unity, right? A common goal. But they're saying, remember they said a cautionary tale, for myself, for you, for whoever is listening, for anyone who is compelled to hold such a leadership title, to not get it confused, twisted, and to be very clear that such a responsibility holds weight, right? Because you're essentially being a steward, being responsible over the healing or lack of healing thereof for individuals, and particularly individuals who are, this is an ambulance, who find themselves in, I wanted to say precautionary, but then I heard predatory lending, prey, clickbait, preying on others. And I'm not talking about Praying. Praying. It was Preying. So it's checking, right? Saying, caution, move with caution. Watch how you move, particularly in these spaces or places. You will be held accountable, right? If there's something about intentionality. What is your intention behind such platforms? Is it ego to just say, oh, I'm on camera? Is it to say, oh, I'm the queen bee? Is it for fame, glory, clout, Or is it really about healing? Is it really about common unity? Right? And I think it's beautiful not only that they mentioned the bee, but they also mentioned the coffee cup. They use the coffee cup. Now I just want to backtrack a little bit, because I feel like I'm really doing a disservice by not really extrapolating, teasing out, due to my own lack of knowledge and remembrance, the importance of the bee hive as a community, for their longevity, for their legacy, I'm hearing, and also the importance of the queen bee, because there's significant, spirit is being very significant to say that yes, she's seated on that throne, and yes, the worker bees go out and work while she's seated there, but it's not out of, I'm hearing the empress, out of arrogance or laziness or pompous futility. It is an understood role that must be protected at all costs, right? And will, right? There's something about the rest of the hive will die protecting the queen bee. So that if there's that much love and intentionality towards the queen bee, then how much more should the queen bee then have towards, her flock, her hive? And at the bottom of the deck, moon, emotions. And I don't know, I just heard that song. Emotions make you sad sometimes. Then you fall in love. Right? And I think that it's very poignant that the card emotions came out, because a lot of people are in these ambulances, right? Due to the inability to cope with their emotions, right? And then this dusk sky with the, I don't know, I just heard with the beautiful black kemet soil, right? I'm hearing weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. But when they're in that night, right? And I'm being reminded that on my walk today with my puppy, I bumped into a fellow dog sister, and we've encountered ourselves, a young lady around my daughter's age, in the past couple of springs and summers during our walks during similar trails in the neighborhood. And she kind of like broke down unwillingly, but felt safe because of our prior brief encounters. They have been pretty positive, although brief, just in passing. But we've exchanged numbers, and she confessed that she had just broken up with her beloved, I'm hearing. And, the tears just began to stream down her face. And, of course, I offered myself to her to let her know, that she can call on me even tomorrow on Christmas, that, if she just wanted to vent or cry, someone to listen or even pray with her, that I would be more than open to that. But people are hurting, although during this holiday season, particularly, I'm hearing again in the U.S. and Canada, we make a much ado of it, and it's deck the halls and fa la 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 la. But not everybody's fa la 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 la. Not everybody has a home to go to or a family to spend it with, or a significant other, right? And in some cases, people break up, people pass away. Condolences to anybody. So a lot of the times when people come to these platforms, like the YouTube channels, whether it's through tarot readings or any other kind of emotional support, or support, right? That this is not to be taken lightly, right? People's lives literally are at stake here, right? I don't know, my throat just feels got real emotional myself. And I confessed to her that it was 2 years ago in 2023 when I came home, right? And right before Thanksgiving and Christmas had gone through a breakup. And I do recall the pain, right? And it's interesting that I think that the pain in the breakup, hurts no matter what day of the year it occurs. But I think because, again, as Americans and Canadians, I don't know why I keep saying it like that, but I'll just be obedient. My spirit team is saying to say it that way. Who particularly put emphasis on holidays this way. It seems to be that the actual holiday seems to highlight it and cause it to be more of a memory that is but that seems to the individual more solidified in a different way because of its close proximity and association to the holiday. So, for example, when someone who we love passes away, I've heard it, too many times to count. But when someone says, yeah, my mom passed last Thanksgiving, or my father passed during, Christmas or whatever, it does then, when others are then celebrating that holiday in a different way with their fa-la-la-la-las, for that individual, that association, right, brings up the memory. There you go. The nervous system, right? Prior to turning on the camera, I had to literally get into position, sit and do 4, 4, 4, right? Where you breathe in for 4, pause for 4, breathe out for 4, pause, right? A way to regulate the nervous system, right? To settle things down, to let the body know I'm safe, I'm okay, right? Emotional regulation. So that's the message that Spirit wanted to concentrate on. That's the message that needed to come across on this evening, right? That's the message that those who are resonating under the sound of my voice that came to this message needed to hear. Whether you yourself are a content creator or a leader in an organization, at a job, self-employed, on a social media platform, I'm hearing it doesn't even need to be that extra outside. As a parent, as a lover, as a friend, right? Your words matter. Your essence matters. The energy that you deliver and emanate matters to the common unity and the community you confirmation interject in commune with. And in the forefront of your mind, you should always be cautious, right, as to how you behave, what you say, what you emanate, right? Do you aid in the healing, or do you add to the pain and the hurt that then causes the need for the healing? I heard amen. Amen. Ashe. So that's the message, right? It's almost like a self-check, right? That should be done regularly, right? on a regular basis. You know, I wanted to start giving time frames, but I heard don't give time frames. That's for them to decide. But definitely, right, when you even go out to do any of these talks or do a presentation or provide a service somewhere, most of us give a pre and post assessment or evaluation, right? Just say, what did we do correctly? What information did you gain and gather? Right? You know, did you learn something? Was the presentation effective? Right? So it's like a self-check, a self-analysis, especially if we're claiming, not claiming, if we're calling in communities, other individuals who know we shouldn't encourage them to look at us as, you know, above, or, and because people do that, right? We do that to pastors, to imams, you know, to specifically to religious leaders and other leaders, right? We kind of, the humanity in us sometimes tend to want to put them on pedestals and things of that nature. But I just heard they poop just like you too, though, right? So to understand that they're human like you too, but however, if you claim that title, that role, particularly willingly, and you're calling it in, whether it's on a social media platform or you became employed to do it, or in your family, you're saying you're the matriarch, you're the patriarch, right? You're the man of the house, the woman of the, whatever. You're the older sister, the older brother, the uncle, the aunt, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And now, lastly, I'm hearing it is also not just imperative because of those that you're assisting and whether you are able to aid them in, whether you're helping them get out of the ambulance or you're the one putting them into them, right? Astaghfirullah. But also for your own self-check in the sense of, are you doing the healing work? What type of healing do you need, right? What I really love about not too long ago, that Showtime show with the therapist, right? During the pandemic, she came on and she was doing therapy. I forget what's the name of the show. But one of the things that I loved about the show was that although she was the therapist providing therapy to the couples therapy, that's what it was. She, as an individual who was single, interestingly enough, was then going to a therapist one-on-one for herself, as well as a group of colleagues of her own, right? Her peers that were also therapists, to discuss the cases and the couples, right? So again, spirit is really, really, you know, over and over again in different ways, whether it's a self-check, a check by divinity and your ancestor guys, a check by standards. Right now I'm seeing the caduceus, right? Do no harm, right? The oath, right? That doctors take. Right, as a social worker, right, that if someone tells me they want to hurt them, I have the right, the responsibility to report certain things. So there's a lot of about standards and ethics and values and self-checks and caution. Right now I'm seeing the cautions as self-checkpoints, right? So even with something as doing tarot, if I do tarot, then what tarot community am I checking my ish with? What other tarot person, right? If it's not any of these, in the family, right? With other matriarchs am I communion with? Yeah, there's something about community is important for all involved, from the quote unquote leader, right? And there's something about, right? Because they wanted to emphasize that although the beehive does everything to to protect their queen, but there's a reason. There's this like love or knowing that the queen is also just as equally invested in protecting and sustaining the beehive, just from a different angle, a different perspective. So now there's back to like everyone has a role. It's reminding me of another tarot reader. There's a brother, he was saying the other day, he used the example of the Avengers, and he literally used Captain America, and he said that in the Disney series, I don't know, I haven't watched it, and I don't have Disney. But although I would love it, I'm a Disney kid. I argue with Disney, I promise. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship. Anyway, that's another story. See, the American in me, right? The American, maybe that's why the America US follow all the holiday, that's been indoctrinated with Disney. That little kid version of me loves Disney, but then the adult me that questions Disney and the messages that it portrays, right? There's this cautionary tale, particularly regarding healing and the aptitude and strength and vitality and healthiness of the community supersedes everything, right? Nevertheless, he was saying that Captain America in this Disney series, again, I don't know if this is true, I'm just repeating what he said, do your own fact check, but that what he particularly likes about Captain America and feels he's a good leader because, depending on the mission that they are about to encounter, the context of the situation, he knows how to fall back and say, Hulk, you got this one, because this one requires more of your expertise and strength. Hawkeye, you have this one. Black Widow, you have that one, right? And that makes him, in his eyes, a well-rounded leader, as opposed to a pompous, arrogant fool that is just for clickbait and clout chasing and cares nothing that instead of healing, they may be sending people to the, in ambulances. And again, if you don't self-check, that doesn't mean that there isn't, this divinity, that karma, call it what you want, that's constantly regulating and self-checking nevertheless, right? Now I'm seeing like a radar scanning. The scan is always being done, whether you think it is or not, whether you do it yourself or not. I don't know, now there's something about, I surrender, hands up, don't shoot. I don't know, right? And I ain't got time. And yeah, don't shoot. On a real serious tip now, right? That's lives are at stake, right? I'm giving the signal. I'm unarmed, right? People are coming unarmed, vulnerable. Like that young lady, she was vulnerable, heart bleeding in her hands, literally. Well, figuratively, but but that's the way it felt to her. So I had to be very careful for what I said and what I offered. And if she calls, how I respond. I don't think I need to pull any other cards. I think that was the message, right? I want to thank my spirit guides, my ancestors, and divinity, right? For such a poignant, I'm hearing, and much needed reminder and message, right? And I think it's really significant. They're circling me back to how we're entering what most Americans and Canadians celebrate as the new year. Okay, if you want to rock out and say this is your new year, well, this is what I need for you to have in the forefront moving forward into this new year. Because it's going to be very important. Not that it hasn't always been, but there's going to be now more checkpoints regarding this. I'm hearing in 2026 and moving forward. I'm hearing from this day henceforth. And I just heard, consider yourself forewarned. Like you've been put up on game. You know, there's this thing I used to tell my kids when they made a mistake or they did something the first time. I would say, well, you didn't know. So now we're having this conversation. Then I want you to repeat back to me what you heard so we can be clear you heard me correctly. Therefore, if we encounter this situation again, at the very least, the thing that cannot come out your mouth is, I didn't know. Right? People's lives matter. And this isn't a game. If you call yourself a leader in any shape, way, form, then be ready to assume accountability and responsibility if the chips fall. And now I'm getting Philly, a Jalen Hurts, right, from the Philadelphia Eagles, NFC East champ, 2nd year in a row, proudly, right? I've been bleeding green 25 plus years. It's all good over here. No fair weather friend, no bandwagon. However, see, there's something about loyalty and dedication to something, to a common unity, right? But he displays good leadership when the team takes a loss and he says, that's on me, right? That's on me. I need to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, beloved, that's it. Because I think if I'll just keep going around. And I'm a teacher at heart. I'm an educator at heart. I want to educate, right? So I'll continue to give examples. But I think I'm hearing you hit the nail, the hammer on the head, the nail on the, you know what I'm trying to say. The point has been made. Spirit said, you got it. They got it. They understand. Ain't nobody slow Joe from Idaho up in here, I'm hearing. This is a beautiful collective that's ready and willing, raw, right, to move forward with such consciousness because they understand that they are sacred consciousness, right? Yes. And on that note, beloved, if you watch this video, during this holiday season, may you have a blessed and safe holiday season if you celebrate. And if you don't need to celebrate it. It's okay, right? This message is still for you and is very imperative. I just still want to be mindful of those in this community who may hold, this season dear and near to them for different reasons. And until next time, I'm going to suggest that you be you on purpose, right? Because this world needs you. Can't nobody lead or do what you do, right? So until next time, beloved, Amen, Amen, and Ashe.